So then, if you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control, where something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality, not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
We are all interconnected. Hello to you all. Streaming live from Maastricht. You're watching RHTV Live. And we're going to talk geopolitics. And first of all, we're going to show where we're streaming from, the beautiful city of Maastricht. Here we have Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And of course, we're going to talk geopolitics. And first of all, we're going to take a look at what's happening in the Korean Peninsula, right? We need some history, and we're going to take a look at some history of North and South Korea. So let's put that on the map. Here we have North and South Korea. This is a pressure point, right? It's always been a pressure point. And now the color of the pressure point is from orange to red. So we're going to take a look at that. But first, we're going to give some history of North and South Korea. And we're going to take a look at Wikipedia, which gives us an indication on how things worked out. The division of Korea. The division of Korea began on August 15th, 1945, when the official announcement of the surrender of Japan was released, thus ending the Pacific theater of World War II. During the war, the Allied leaders had already been considering the question of Korea's future following Japan's eventual surrender in the war. The leaders reached an understanding that Korea would be liberated from Japan, but would be placed under an international trusteeship until the Koreans would be deemed ready for self-rule. In the last days of the war, the United States proposed dividing the Korean peninsula into two occupation zones, a US and a Soviet zone, with the 38th parallel as the dividing line. The Soviets accepted their proposal and agreed to divide Korea. So here we have some background, right? We have external powers deciding for Korea. Japan annexed Korea, right, during the Second World War, and two external powers deciding over one country. So here we have some background, and we're going to take a look at something else. This is very important to know because there is a war brewing in the Korean Peninsula, right? So let's take a look at this here first. There were good times, and now there are bad times in the Korean Peninsula. These were the good times when families reunited after 70 years. You know, they haven't seen them in 70 years. It's a lifetime. But, these people, it's a miracle that they're still alive. But they're being reunited. We have North and South coming together, and reuniting families. It's beautiful to see.
This morning, a convoy of buses threaded from south to north for what is literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The first and only face-to-face meetings between Korean relatives separated for over 6 decades at least. There were 89 families in all, the Southerners chosen by lottery, the Northerners apparently having to prove their loyalty to their dictatorship first. They've been separated ever since the Korean War ended in 1953, and some even longer than that. And so, in this North Korean holiday resort, in itself a contradiction in terms, witness a sister meet her little brother for the first time since 1945. Old photographs are their only clue to mutual recognition. You were 2 and I was 4, she tells him. Yet life in North Korea is so etched on her brother's face that their ages seem reversed. North Korea is permitting them 11 hours together spread over 3 days. There are no repeat visits. There is no second chance. Only this year's thaw in North-South relations, allowing this painfully short melting of hearts. I'm so grateful you came, one sister tells another. I remember how beautiful you once were. Young North Koreans paid their respects to relatives they will never see again. 56,000 South Koreans are on the waiting list for reunions like this. Though every year, around 3,000 die before their hope of a meeting can be fulfilled. This is unbelievable, one woman says after first glimpsing her brother. When he walked towards me, his face looked just like our father. The Southerners bring gifts of medicine and vitamin pills for Northerners who've grown up malnourished and are therefore shorter. And when this 92-year-old meets her 71-year-old son, their age difference again seems to have disappeared. Their lives separated by far more than the 65 years they've been torn apart. No wonder she won't let go of him. There have been no phone calls, no letters, no emails allowed. And after this precious window closes and they cannot hold each other again, imagine the pain amid the awful return to silence.
So that is beautiful to see North and South Korea coming together, reuniting families, you know. But that was back then. And this is now, right? If we look at the situation now in the Korean Peninsula, we see that Korea is basically being destabilized by North Korea. And we're going to take a look at the border, which has been bombed. Here we have footage. Now this is very sad to see, because North Korea is basically saying there is no path to unification, there's only war, right? Now we have North Koreans in the Donbass, in Ukraine, fighting against Ukraine. North Korea actually said we're waging war against Ukraine. So we have that going on, right? Now, normally, as a global organization such as the UN, you'd have certain rules and regulations, and well, the UN is preparing us for Agenda 2030. Yeah. And what is Agenda 2030? Well, we'll find out. And you have to understand that the United Nations played a major role in the Korean Peninsula. They actually had elections because of the United Nations, right? So a global institution such as the United Nations is very, very bad. And the bad thing is all the governments in the world are like, yep, we got to do this. We got to have a pact for the future. Yeah, it's always, they always give the smiley face, right? They always give the smiley face. So let's take a look at this here. Wait a second. Here we have a video. The UN's dark agenda, what you're not being told about Agenda 2030. Now let's take a look at this here.
The UN's Pact for the Future sounds all lovely and warm and collaborative. Who wouldn't want to think about the future and a harmless pact to help protect humanity, all with your best interests at heart? Call me a skeptic. I think we need to dig a little deeper into this. So this pact was announced on the first official day of the UN's Summit of the Future. Perhaps it is going to make all our lives better, or perhaps it marks a significant step towards a technocratic vision of global governance. The Summit of the Future, which in itself is a weirdly broad title because there wouldn't be much demand for a summit discussing what's just happened in the past, was held at the beginning of the 79th session of the annual UN General Assembly. This summit has been in the making since at least 2022. It's following repeated calls by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to accelerate the completion of Agenda 2030. These were the goals set out by the UN in 2015. Now, Agenda 2030 basically underpins everything that is happening in towns and cities all across the world. And once you understand that, much of life, even here in the UK, begins to make perfect sense at a time when it can feel that nothing makes any bloody sense. Agenda 2030 consists of 17 sustainability goals. So that means that elected and some not so elected politicians came together and agreed that if only every government in the world would adhere to these 2030 aims, some might say instructions, we could eradicate poverty, improve health and education, reduce inequality, tackle climate change, and so on. You might recognise the branding. It is everywhere, although you probably almost never consciously noticed it. It was included in the Euros football. It appeared at the Olympics. It is in every corporate handbook and on every website. Open your new mobile phone and there it is in the apps, even though you didn't ask for it. But of course, who wouldn't want to achieve these noble aims of eradicating poverty and so on? It all sounds so lovely and benign. You would be a very brave leader to stand up at a UN assembly and say, actually, I quite like poverty and inequality, or I don't like poverty and inequality, but I do also have an obligation to make decisions which help people who voted for me in my own country too. And that, above all these lofty global aims, will be foremost in my mind. But as it is also lovely and benign, this Pact for the Future sits alongside two other complementary documents. They are the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations. So what exactly is this Pact for the Future? Well, according to the United Nations, it covers a wide array of themes, including peace and security, sustainable development, climate change, digital cooperation, aka clamping down on free speech, human rights, gender equality, youth and future generations. It also focuses on transforming global governance to better address these challenges. Global governance, you say? Well, I didn't vote for anyone's prime minister but my own, and I certainly don't want one that is imposed upon me from another country. Have a look at a clip from the UN General Assembly where the Pact for the Future was adopted.
The commitments embodied in the Pact and its annexes reflect the collective will of member states and must guide our actions and encourage us to promote international peace and security, invigorate implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Oh, promote peace and security, right? Now, the Netherlands is giving a lot of money to Ukraine, which is waging war. So peace and security, but we're waging war. Yeah, that's very Orwellian.
Foster just and inclusive societies and ensure that technologies always serve the common good of humankind. We must move forward together in a spirit of solidarity and multilateral cooperation.
As you can see, world leaders are, on the surface at least, committed to this vision. But it is not possible to achieve these utopian ideals without a deliberate, perhaps forceful, redistribution of food, goods, property, and rights. Just like good old-fashioned communism, the ambition for equal outcome for everyone always results in the very rich getting supremely richer, the very poor perhaps being lifted up a little, but the billions in the middle getting colder, poorer, hungrier, and enslaved within their digital prison.
It's a welfare gap. You see, they don't want you to be rich. They don't want you to be wealthy, rich, healthy. They don't want that. They want a weak public distracted with sports and games and movies. You know, that's what they want. They want you distracted, you know, so they can rule over you.
Just as communism was never really about equality, this new version, which is deceptively called stakeholder capitalism, is not about equality either. This is Klaus Schwab's "you will own nothing and you will be happy" mantra. No, you won't. You'll be miserable, you'll be weak, you'll be obedient, but hopefully sufficiently angry to try and break free. The UN's Agenda 2030 is all about control. Leaders lacking empathy are not troubled by reducing humanity to a mere data set upon which they can keep tabs. And at that,
it was never about public health, it was about public control. You know, when there was this so-called super virus and, you know, it was about control. Over here in Maastricht, in the center, you had like arrows and cameras watching over you. You know, you got to follow that arrow, you know, and keep distance and all that. It was about control, public control. And it's still about control. We are dealing with a totalitarian government who's given its soul to global institutions such as the EU or the United Nations, right? So
at that point, we, the people, are nothing more than a commodity which can be monetized. Will the people of the world comply with this technocratic vision, or will we rebel? Can we even find a different way to function outside of a digital prison? The Pact for the Future and its complementary documents are on the surface designed to create a more interconnected and cooperative world. The Global Digital Compact claims to aspire to making the use of digital technologies more responsible and inclusive. Who wouldn't want that? They claim that they are concerned about digital privacy, cybersecurity, and the digital divide. But whenever governments try to control the behemoth that is the online world, every road leads to the suppression of free speech and the ludicrous idea that someone somewhere in a lavishly glazed office can decide what is factual information and what is misinformation. The Declaration on Future Generations cleverly ramps up the guilt. Who could possibly resist measures that would be required to protect the planet for their children and grandchildren? And yes, of course, we need to leave this world in a better state than when we found it. But
it's not about protection, it's about control. They want to control you. They want to control our governments. They have the governments in their back pockets, right? It's about control. This is why there are electric cars, you know. They can see your speed, everything that's on the computer dashboard, they can trace and track. It's the same with your mobile. You know, they're tracking and tracing you. And even eavesdropping on you, spying on you, whilst you don't even know. Right? We know. We know about Vault 7. We know about the WikiLeaks and stuff like that, you know. We know the back doors. We know.
this has all been decided on the publicly indisputable assumption that there is consensus on, for example, man-made climate change due to carbon emissions.
There is no consensus about that. Nope. What there is a global institution that has their own consensus, you know, their own investigation team, this and that, you know, and that's what their consensus is. There are many professors and such saying that there's nothing wrong with the climate. Now, there is something wrong with the human being, right? Trying to control the climate, such as cloud seeding in Dubai.
Because 21st century challenges require 21st century solutions. frameworks that are networked and inclusive, and that draw on the expertise of all of humanity. I called for this summit because our world is heading off the rails, and we need tough decisions to get back on track.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been a strong advocate for these initiatives. Let's hear what he had to say about the importance of these documents.
Conflicts are raging and multiplying, from the Middle East to Ukraine and Sudan, with no end in sight.
With no end in sight. Well, the United Nations is there to stop these wars, right? You're doing nothing. You're just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for another global institution such as the EU, to solve this problem, to use NATO against Russia, right? That's not solving the problem. That's making it worse. We are now targets for Moscow because we are supporting Ukraine.
Our collective security system is threatened by geopolitical divides, nuclear posturing, and the development of new weapons and theaters of war. Resources that could bring opportunities and hope are invested in death and destruction. Open pathways to new possibilities and opportunities. Our world is going through a time and turbulence.
Death and destruction. Well, our government just gave billions and billions to Ukraine, and we gave, tanks and even planes and stuff like that because, the Russians are bad Russians. No, you have to understand the situation. We've explained it before, right? Ukraine is split into two. You have the west of Ukraine supporting the EU, and the east of Ukraine is supporting Russia, right? Now, the US knew about this. They divided the country. They staged a coup in 2014 where they put radicals into power, right? And the radicals are waging war against Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the Donbass. Now, Russia tried to prevent this from happening. The Minsk Accords, right? Minsk Accord 1 and 2, and why those two accords? Well, Ukraine did not abide by the Minsk Accord, and they kind of, modified it, and Minsk 2 came, and nope, Ukraine did not abide by Minsk 2. So Russia said, yep, they're not going to listen to us. We tried to prevent this. We need to attack. We need to protect the east of Ukraine against Ukraine trying to take over their area again. You see, the Donbass, Lugansk and Donetsk and other areas had said, we are not listening to you, Kiev. Yeah. So we are basically our own state, right? A sovereign state within the Ukraine. And that's why Ukraine is trying to get those areas back, right? Now, after the coup, the EU had elections in Ukraine, and then Poroshenko came into power, and Poroshenko, he basically said, I'm going to talk to the east of Ukraine, we're going to talk about this. He did not do that. He used his military against the east of Ukraine. So this is how it all started, right? Now the United Nations is supposed to prevent all this from happening.
And the period of transition. But we cannot wait for perfect conditions. We must take the first decisive steps towards updating and reforming international cooperation and make it more networked, more fair, and more inclusive now. And today, thanks to your efforts, we have. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations open pathways to new possibilities and opportunities.
Guterres emphasises the need for urgent action and global cooperation to address the challenges we face. The race is on to save the planet and possibly line the pockets of vested interests in captured regulatory bodies, made up of a very small group of experts rather than through any democratic process. Thankfully, Agenda 2030 has already sparked debates and protests in various parts of the world, despite it getting almost no mentions in the Western, particularly the British mainstream media. The alternative social news media is awash with awareness. Millions of you are concerned about the potential loss of national sovereignty and also individual freedoms. Agenda 2030's commitment to homes being given to climate migrants will make small boat illegal migration look utterly trivial. This powerful technocracy might prioritise so-called efficiency. They might persuade countries to be responsible over issues such as cleaner seas, education for girls under otherwise medieval regimes, and even toilets in remote African villages. But it is so obvious in their literature. Have a look, it's in your phone, it's in your apps, that the stuff which really excites them is not the expensive projects like dredging plastic from oceans or building toilets for Maasai tribes. It's the profitable stuff. It's the wind turbines. It's the solar farms currently being built on top of beautiful, natural, life-giving farms. It is surveillance on the streets. It's the highly profitable diversity and inclusion ticket, which perhaps contains a blatant contradiction between the UN's ambition to empower women and girls, but also heavily promote the trans ideology, which can steal spaces from those women and girls. We all need to become hyper-vigilant to the 2030 UN agenda. Its endgame is control. Where and when you travel, what you eat, who you can see, what you can say. But all is not lost. The Dutch farmers and the Canadian truckers showed what can be done when people come together, driven by the need to put individual freedoms first. The freedom to transact, to trade, to refuse an injection that they didn't want in the case of the truckers, even just to grow the food that the farmers want to grow in the way that they want to grow it. This sort of collective has immense power. Once a group of people with megalomaniacal drives and vested profit motives control the food, they control the people. So stay informed about these developments and understand their implications. Engage in discussions, ask questions, make your voice heard. Chat about it at the bus stop. Show you.
We make our voice heard, right? We make our voice heard. We talked about Bilderberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, the World Economic Forum, right? We know what's happening. We see the danger coming. So, the United Nations is there to maintain the peace. Well, what about Korea? What about North and South Korea? Yet another war, right? Oh, we got to invest in this war here. Yeah. We got a new enemy, Kim Jong-un. Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not a fan of Kim Jong-un, but he never threatened the Netherlands, not as I know, So leave him be, right? Leave him be. It's not our thing to decide upon. Now, what we can do as the Netherlands, we can be the third party. We can talk to the North, talk to the South, and make a concession out of this, right? These families need to see each other again. They haven't seen each other in 70 years. So, very, very sad thing to see. And we hope that that Korea will be brought back together as one. Unification of Korea. We don't want a tin pot dictator over there in the north, and we don't want the division between the north and the south. We don't want that. We want peace. That's what we want. Now let's take a look at Mark Dice. 53 minutes ago, he posted this one here about Kamala, new celebrity clowns.
Pun intended, to help singer Lizzo, who made perhaps the dumbest statement ever on a campaign trail.
I'm so proud to be from this city. They say if Kamala wins, then the whole country will be like Detroit.
That's a comment that Donald Trump meant because obviously Detroit is a hellhole.
Okay? Proud like Detroit. Resilient like Detroit.
A complete ghetto like Detroit with one of the highest crime rates in the country. In fact, if you search YouTube for streets of Detroit, even with the massive algorithm manipulation, you just get a bunch of videos of people literally just driving around Detroit to show people how horrifying it is. It looks like scenes from The Walking Dead. The real streets of Detroit, Michigan, 2023. Detroit's real streets at night. You can tell from the thumbnail just how safe that neighborhood is. Detroit hoods at night. I mean, looks like a fantastic area. Oh, look at all these shorts. But Ratchet Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has a theory about why so many inner cities are complete hellholes and crime-infested wastelands.
He said that we've got these cities and these towns that are being overrun by gangs and the crime.
She's complaining about Donald Trump, of course.
Out of control. I absolutely agree with that. And guess what? It's the MAGA gang. It is the white supremacists that have decided to descend upon places such as Springfield, Ohio. So I agree with him. I just disagree with who the problems are. The problems are him and his minions.
Well, you learn something every day. I had no idea that white MAGA gangs were responsible for turning the black communities in Detroit into this lovely upscale neighborhood filled with a bunch of fixer-uppers. The high priests of Hollywood are all rallying behind Kamala now in the final few weeks before the election, like Ben Affleck's ex-wife, Jennifer Garner, who said perhaps the second most insane thing on a campaign trail.
Listen, I know you've knocked and knocked, and I know you've called and called. I know you've given and given, and you're worn out. But the truth is, you are the front lines. This is it. I mean, I'm looking at these beautiful faces.
Look at how scared she is.
These women and these strong men. God, is there anything sexier than a man who is like men for Kamala?
She's a comedian. Who knew? Here's one of those men for Kamala right here who joined.
These people are desperate, right? I mean, you're talking about Trump and Kamala, right? Now, Trump has been in power for 4 years, and a good economy bloomed out of nothing, basically, because Obama wrecked the country. Now, Trump is basically a thorn in the side of the United Nations, right? Because he was talking about national empowerment, right? National empowerment. So, and they don't want this. They want an interconnected world where there's a global body deciding for all these countries. You know, the UN Agenda 2030 is implemented by the new Dutch government. Now, the people during the elections, they never talked about Agenda 2030. They never talked about it. You know, we had like 2 weeks of elections, and with that, the Dutch voter needed to decide upon a political party. Now, the PVV, Geert Wilders, he basically said we need to leave the EU, we need to get out of the euro, and, you know, have our own government back. And this is what they don't want. Nope, not allowed, Geert. You're not allowed. Nope. So those two ideas he had were brushed upon the table by ideas, and the voter was lied upon. Right? These people are desperate. They are using their minions, confused as they are, you know, have zero knowledge of politics, and I'm getting money from Kamala. Oh, thank you, Kamala. I'll support you. Thank you. This is how it goes, you know. So let's take a look at this beta meal and see what Mark Dice has to say about this guy.
Her on stage last night in Detroit. Brace yourself, because there's mega cringe coming in 3, 2.
Hey, how are y'all doing? All right. My name is Maxine Kirkpatrick. I am a born and bred Michigander, a fellow on the Michigan One campaign, and president of Students for Harris Walls at Wayne State University.
The president.
Hello, how you doing? Come on, this is not an alpha meal, you know. I would not vote for Kamala, you know. But let's see what Mark has to say here.
Of Students for Harris Walls at Wayne State University. What a surprise! And this carbon-based life form has got to be the president of white dudes.
Carbon-based life form. Yeah, that's a good one, Mark. I need to remember that. Yeah. But this is a clown or what? Or I don't know, man. You know, it's
for Harris.
Should you cut off contact with family members just because they are voting for Donald Trump?
This is not a meme, by the way. This is a real carbon-based life form. There's no like filter on there. This is how it presents itself to the world.
Yes. If so far they have not been able or willing to listen to compassion.
You, sir, ma'am, whatever you are lost. Right? You have no political insight. You don't even know what gender you are, right? You are lost. You are lost in the vastness of you know, entertainment and all that. You probably don't even know that the world is round. You probably don't even know that there's a place called Maastricht. Yeah, you are lost, sir, ma'am, whatever you are. And yeah, let's take a look at what Mark has to say.
To listen to kindness, to listen to you, or even to do their own research and discover that hatred's not the answer, that love and kindness is the answer. If they are unwilling to change, they must experience consequences, and you should not withhold those consequences from them. The consequence in this case would be they don't get your beautiful, loving, wonderful presence in their lives.
I would actually give anything to never have your presence in my life or anywhere near me. But unfortunately, these kinds of carbon-based life forms or demonic creatures are no longer just relegated to the Jerry Springer Show or Tumblr or TikTok. Now they, of course, are celebrated in all of the mainstream media and even welcomed and celebrated in the U.S. military.
The military be so silly with their rules.
The military be so silly with their rules. I have to translate this ghetto nonsense.
Like, why did I just get in trouble for having a pink lunchbox? And
why were you allowed in the military in the first place?
Then I got in trouble for wearing lip gloss. Yeah. And God forbid I wear some mascara.
Oh man, you have another lost person, right? Wearing lip gloss and stuff like that. It's like, what? You're in the military. You're supposed to, protect civilians and stuff like that. But you're used as a pawn to wage wars, foreign military wars. Now, would you be combat ready when you're not wearing your lip gloss? Right? Would you be combat ready? Say, for instance, there's a soldier coming your way, the enemy is coming your way, and, shooting and stuff like that. And what would you do? Would you be like, oh, wait a minute. I have to wear my lip gloss. Yeah, gotta do that. What? You're in the military. Oh my God.
God forbid an actual American soldier has to serve with this thing. And billionaire Mark Cuban, who apparently is transitioning into Rachel Maddow, has a theory about why no actual men support Kamala Harris.
Struggles with male voters for Kamala Harris. What do you think? How do you think that's shaping up? What are you hearing from people you talking about that?
Well, I mean, it's a social media thing. I mean, we live in a world of algorithms where you get reinforced what you're already looking at. And if you're a guy and you're looking at football, which leads to something else, which leads to Donald Trump, it's not surprising. But I think the campaign is doing a good job of trying to overcome that with going out, but also getting on social.
So I don't look at football. I look at soccer sometimes when the national league is playing another country. I do watch that, but most of the times I watch history and documentaries and knowledge is good, and all these sports games, who cares, right? Who really cares? Now, people do care about movies. Yeah. Remember, release the Zack Snyder cut. Yeah, hashtag release the Snyder cut or something like that. There was a public pressure to release the movie Zack Snyder wanted to release. Right? So people were angry about that. This Justice League movie, Joss Whedon, it's crap. We won Zack Snyder. And now there is a Zack Snyder Justice League, right? So there was a public pressure. The people think we don't have any power. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You just don't realize it because you're following lost people such as this dude here, Mark Cuban, or whatever his name is.
And going where they are.
So he is blaming the algorithms for shifting people's feeds who pay attention to football to then leading them into Donald Trump's content, and that has brainwashed them into supporting him. And by the way, he made his money back in the late 90s with a lucky investment into a website, broadcast.com, which was later purchased for billions of dollars by Yahoo when they had unlimited money. And then they later shut it down because it was not profitable. And I don't think he's even increased his net worth by $1 ever since then, but he has been riding off of that lucky guess for the last 25 years as an expert investor. Hassan Piker, who is Chunk Yogurt's nephew from the Young Turks, is a very popular live streamer over on Twitch, twitch.tv, which is primarily for gamers, game streams, but a lot of people do talk politics over there as well, which is owned by Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Same with the Washington Post. He is a multi-millionaire who is propped up by that platform over there, and he is extremely concerned because he sees so many right-wingers online amongst the young actual men.
There is a massive amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring.
Oh, radicalization, meaning in life.
Wait a minute, radicalization. I'm not right-wing, I'm not left-wing. You know, I'm apolitical. I look at it from a distance, right? I don't want to be part of a political party, you know, but I do want change. I want these people from political parties to realize, you know, that you're supporting something that is not in your interest or the interest of the public, right? I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm apolitical, I'm a political atheist, right? So,
enlightenment.
Especially in younger male spaces, everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the
right-wing politics, no, I'm just showing what's happening in and around our beautiful planet. You know, I just gave history about North Korea and South Korea, you know, the divide and stuff like that. We want unification. We want these families to be together, right? That's what we want. We don't want war, because right now they're on the path of war, right? This is not right wing. This is not left wing. This is apolitical.
The age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center right to, I wouldn't say far right in the same way that it was back in like the 2016 era at the end of like Obama's administration, but like definitely center right to.
You, sir, are just lost, right? You support your own political party. Oh, the Democrats. You know, Joe Biden was half dead when he came into the White House. You didn't care. You don't care about that. You know, you care about supporting your own political party. That's what you care about. And everything that's outside of your political party, that's extreme right. Oh, extreme right. No. You are lost like many Americans are, right? Mark is showing you the way forward.
To Trumpian right, like openly Trump right. Not.
That's because social media is the new AM talk radio. AM talk radio has been dominated by conservatives since its inception. Liberals tried to get a platform there and nobody listened. Nobody cared. They got shut down. They went bankrupt. After the 2016 election, the New York Times complained that YouTube was the new talk radio. And we dominated back then because that was before the algorithm manipulation. And now, of course, channels like mine are shadow banned, even if you're subscribed.
Well, channels like mine are also shadow banned. Yep, because we tell the truth here. We're not affiliated to a political party. I don't get money from anyone, you know. I just want peace. That's what I want. I want peace and freedom. And the wars need to end, you know.
may not even get my content shown up in your homepage because, well, I have a visibility filter placed on my channel. So they allow me to exist, at least thankfully, but they don't like the channel to grow. Because who in their right mind these days?
Same here, Mark. Same here. They don't like RHTVLive to grow, because we're telling the truth. That's what we're here for,
Days watches CNN or MSNBC and listens to this.
Should never again stand behind the
That's her repeating the same speech over and over again at every campaign stop about how they must never again allow Donald Trump to stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Donald Trump.
Now, why would that be, right? Why? I just explained that Trump is a nationalist. Now, the globalists, they want someone that plays their game, and Trump says, nope, we're not playing that game. So, this is why the elections are very, very important. And I hope Trump wins, because that is a beacon of light. We need nationalism back, right? You need to love your country. Now, a lot of people are hating their country because of the politics, but you need to realize these are all puppets from the United Nations, from the World Economic Forum, from Bilderberg, and all these other shadow lobby groups that no one voted upon.
Trump is also hitting the campaign trail very hard in these final few weeks, and here he was in Pennsylvania yesterday.
So you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president.
Well, Trump, I kind of disagree with you with that. It all started with the worst president of the United States, George Bush Jr., right? Senior was okay, kind of okay, but Junior, the whole Bush family, Senior and Junior, they're all bad. Rotting apples within the tree of freedom, right? It all started there, the Bush era, 2001. You guys do remember that, right? You guys remember what happened on 2001, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001? You guys remember that? Yeah, that was a false flag attack to have a footstep in the Middle East, right? This is why Afghanistan was attacked. This is why Iraq was attacked. It's also to serve Israel, right? Because Israel said, Saddam, it's not really a good guy, got to overthrow him. But we have the United States to do that for us, right? Now the tables have turned. That was back then. The tables have turned. Israel is waging war in Lebanon. They're also still bombing Gaza and bombing other places such as Yemen and Damascus in Syria. So, yeah, I want a president that can arrange peace. That's what I want, right? Now, Kamala Harris won't do that. She's so dim-witted, giving the same speech, every time. She's so dim-witted, we don't need that. But the Democratic Party wants a female president, They've been trying to do that ever since Hillary Clinton. Yeah, that's the change. Yeah, we need to change the gender. No, that's wrong, you know. So, please, I want a president that can arrange peace within the world, right? And also the Korea Peninsula, right? We need peace. We need peace. We don't need another war.
Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired.
Get out of here.
That's right, sir. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're new here and check back.
Subscribe to Mark Dice. It's a good friend of mine. So, yeah, it's like, whoa, dude. What a world, huh? What a world. Germany blames Russia for economic woes. Now, let's take a look at this here. Germany is basically supporting Ukraine, but the high courts have said that the government is not allowed to support Ukraine anymore. So let's take a look at this here.
All right, Alexander, let's talk about some of the rhetoric that is coming out of Germany with regards to Russia, blaming Russia and Putin for everything, including Germany's economic decline, economic recession, deindustrialization. Blame it on Russia. And I would like to hear your thoughts on CDU, CSU, Merz as well, and his ultimatum to
deindustrialization is part of the UN plan, right? They need an enemy. So they're pointing at Russia whilst they shoot themselves in the foot, because they also signed on for the plan for the future, or, you know, and they're shooting themselves in the foot, blaming Russia.
Putin as well, with regards to the conflict in Ukraine. His 24-hour ultimatum to Putin, or at least urging the German parliament to issue this ultimatum, either Putin stop or Taurus missiles will be sent to Ukraine in 24 hours. Anyway, let's start with Scholz and the German economy and Russia, and then if you could chime in on Merz and his statements, because Merz could be Chancellor of Germany.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, more likely than not, he will be. I mean, if the polls continue the way they are, all of these statements, both the ones by Scholz and the ones by Merz, show you in what a mess Germany is in, and how concerned and worried now the political establishment in Germany, both the SPD side and the CDU side now is. Bear in mind that the most likely outcome of the parliamentary elections next year will be a coalition of the CDU and the SPD. I mean, you know, another grand coalition. I mean, you know, that seems to me to be where we're heading, based on the opinion polls. So they're very worried. They're seeing their support erode, but more importantly, they're also seeing the economy that they presided over, and which has made them such a powerful force in the world, and above all in Europe, that's now weakening and closing down. And
so Germany is a federal state, right? And there are elections, state elections. And there's a right-wing party, the AfD, Alternative für Deutschland. My German is bad, but Alternative for Germany, and they are gaining a lot of seats. Now there is an intermission, right? See it as a pause, you know. They're pausing the game. And in February, there will be elections on the west side of Germany. So they first had the east side of Germany, voting for majority AfD, and in February the state elections will resume, and yeah, we'll see what the AfD will do.
Failing all around them. So they want to do two things. On the one hand, they want the war to end, and they want the war to end as quickly as possible because they realize that the war is a losing proposition. It is economically disastrous for Germany. And secondly, they want to put all the blame, to shift all the blame for what has happened away from themselves. So Scholz once again fabricates this story that it's the Russians who are causing economic crisis in Germany. It is the Russians who switch off the gas. It's the Russians who switch off the oil. I mean, it is incredible that they say all of this when, the facts are there so straightforwardly disprove them. But anyway, they are increasingly talking in this way. But, take a step back and ask yourself this question, which I think a lot of people in Germany, but I can tell you for a fact, a lot of people in Germany are asking. Let's assume anyway that what Scholz said was actually true. That is, the Russians have taken this retaliatory action, which has caused Germany's economy to implode. Well, Germany imposed sanctions on Russia. It was involved in freezing the Russian central bank assets. It confiscated Gazprom's facilities in Germany itself, the underground storage places, the transfer lines, all of that kind of thing, all Gazprom property, all simply seized by the German government without any kind of compensation being paid. Germany's imposed, sanctions after sanctions on Russia. And here is Scholz, here are the German leaders coming round and complaining about what the Russians have done to them.
Isn't it odd, right? Isn't it odd? It's really weird because Germany has been deindustrializing ever since what happened in Japan. Remember the nuclear facility blowing up, Fukushima? Well, Germany said that is so dangerous that we need to denuclearize, right? We need to get rid of the nuclear factories and such. And so they did. And now they have solar and wind energy. And, that is a very big impact on the economy, right? So they're shooting themselves in the foot all the time and blaming it on Russia. Now you have to understand that Germany got a lot of gas and oil from Russia, right? So we have the Nord Stream pipeline. You guys remember that? The Nord Stream pipeline that was blown up. So here we have North and South Korea. Let's go back to Europe. And here we have Moscow. And there was a pipeline from St. Petersburg all the way to Hamburg, right? The Nord Stream pipeline. And it was blowing up. Now, who had done that? Would you blow up your own pipeline? I don't think so. It was the US that had blown it up, right? So there you have that. And the US is blaming Ukraine. And according to an investigation on the pipeline, there's also, leading evidence that some Ukrainian blew it up. So basically you have the Pentagon saying, you know, we got to cover our ass here, right? How are we going to do this? We just blew up a pipeline. And we got a Ukrainian here, let's blame him. So that is the frame of reality. That's what happened, right? The US and the UK basically blew it up and blame it on the Ukrainians whilst Ukraine is in a war, right? So they're giving the wrong frame, right? That's not the reality. The reality is what I just gave, right? They're using the wrong frame. So, yeah, that's that. And if we look over here in the Middle East, we have Israel, as I've said before, still bombing Gaza, still killing a lot of people over there. There's this hospital where people were, you know, for shelter and stuff, and it was put on fire or bombed or something along those lines, right? And very, very sad thing to see. We have our friend Richard Medhurst talking about that situation that happened in the camp where, you know, people were set on fire. A very, very sad thing to see. And this is also a warning, right, for people. Yeah, this is very, very violent, or how do you say it? Not very pleasant to see, put it that way. So here we have people burned alive in Gaza. And we're going to take a look at this here. I hope it works. Here, the following content may contain graphic or violent imagery. I understand and wish to proceed. There we go.
Keep in mind, this is not the first time this hospital is attacked. It's been attacked, I think, at least 6 times, since March, since roughly March. And what I'm about to show you, I mean, it's just so awful. So just so we're clear, these are people who are sheltered outside the hospital. They're people that are in displacement tents. They're people who've lost their homes. They've got nowhere else to go. That means Israel has blown up their houses or told them to leave their houses, and you know, they've just been shoved around Gaza from one end to the next. Basically, at the end of the day, they've got nowhere else to go, and they're sleeping outside in tents, okay?
And they're burned alive, right? We're not going to show any more, because otherwise you get a warning from YouTube. You're not allowed to show that. No, why am I not allowed to show that? And CNN is allowed to show it. You know, MSNBC is allowed to show it. But I'm not, because I'm a small YouTuber. No, I want to show reality, and, you know, very sad, put it that way. We don't want war, we want peace. That's what we want. We want peace, right? Peace. We want prosperity. We want the world you know, to be rich, not to be poor, but they want you to be poor, right? This is what they want. This is what their goal really is. They want you poor. They don't want you to cover the news yourself, such as this guy here going after a tornado, you know. Beautiful images. We're going to take a look at this here.
The May 27th, 1997 Gerald F5 is arguably one of the most powerful tornadoes of all time. But on top of that, the Gerald F5 tornado is also one of the strangest tornadoes of all time. How did this tiny little rope tornado transform into this massive monster? Why did it go the opposite direction of 90% of all other tornadoes? And why has it captured the imagination of so many tornado enthusiasts? The Gerald F5 tornado is truly unique amongst most tornadoes. For one, its proximity to I-35 made it easily visible and heavily filmed. There's also so much lore surrounding the storm, including the infamous dead man walking photo. So today we're going to cover the story, the lore, and the aftermath of the Gerald Dead Man Walking tornado. Let's get into it. Let me take you back to a time known as the 1990s, specifically May 27th, 1997, in a little town known as Gerald. Gerald is an unincorporated community located between Waco and Austin, Texas, right off of Interstate 30.
Look at this, man. I mean, you got like Sweego Studios, you know, giving us 3D images and stuff like that. You know, we are the news. We are the news. We have the power to change the course of humanity the right way, right? We are here to inform you, not to say that you're a slave or a consumer, right? No, you are a human being. You may be misguided or whatever, but you are on the right path when you're watching RHTVLive.
Now, the weather over Central Texas on the morning of May 27th was actually pretty nice. It was pretty hot and it was very humid, but overall, it was nice. Some people did claim that there was an eerie feeling in the atmosphere, but to most, it was just a typical spring day. No one was really expecting historic severe weather later that afternoon. Even the experts at the National Weather Service weren't fully convinced that there would be some crazy historic weather event over Central Texas that day. They knew that some of the, elements were there for severe weather, so they did issue a moderate risk for the area, but they were thinking more of like a typical spring storm. The formation of most supercells and their accompanying tornadoes are usually due to key atmospheric factors such as high wind shear, significant pressure gradients in the lower troposphere, and an area of low pressure. But none of these were present over Central Texas that day. In fact, the area of greatest low pressure was way up in Nebraska, nowhere near Central Texas. But our atmosphere is quite an enigma, and if conditions are just right, it can do some pretty strange things. You see, while the atmosphere in Central Texas didn't have typical tornado formation conditions, it did feature high thermodynamic instability. Now, that by itself is not really that unusual. In fact, that's pretty typical for Texas in the springtime, and usually it leads to a couple of strong storms, maybe some high winds, maybe some hail, but rarely supercells and rarely supercells that produce tornadoes. But it wasn't just the high thermodynamic instability. There was also a dry line to the west, a cold front also to the west, and a gravity wave heading down from Louisiana. Take a look at this satellite imagery. See this line right here? This is the dry line. Now watch what happens when the cold front moves from the west and the gravity line moves in from the east. Boom, supercell. Boom, supercell. Boom, boom, supercells. From all these supercells, 20 tornadoes formed, including 3 F3s, 1 F4, and of course, the infamous Gerald F5. But before we get to that, let me tell you a cautionary tale, okay? So this is a true story, by the way. About a year ago, I got 10 texts within like 5 minutes that said, "Yo, dude, your social media account was hacked."
Yeah, true story, true story. You're right. Includes paid promotion. So, these commercials during the video. You don't get that here, you know. You don't get that here. There's no commercials on this channel. So we're going to go somewhat forward. Let's see how this supercell came to be. Yeah, NordVPN. You see, people like to go live and such, but they also want to grow, right? And you have like these sponsors. Yeah, you have to say NordVPN during your video. No, we don't do that here. We don't have sponsors. We don't need sponsors. Right?
So the supercell that would later produce the Gerald F5 tornado initially formed near Waco. Now Waco has had its fair share of tornadoes in the past. Of course, there's the 1953 tornado, which killed over 100 people and is still the deadliest tornado in Texas history. Thankfully on that day, Waco would be spared, but just south of Waco, the very first tornado of the supercell formed around 1:20 p.m. near the towns of Moody and Lorena. So when it comes to the very first Moody tornado, there's actually a lot of good home video of this. For example, this footage right here captured by Sandy Silvas was taken just southeast of Moody, and it's pretty incredible.
Debbie! 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 It's gonna hit us.
That is amazing how nature works, right? You know, people don't see the beauty. They only see the destruction. But it's beautiful to see a tornado, you know, coming together.
Power's gone. There went the power lines. You can feel the wind start to kick up here.
The thing I don't really understand, maybe an American can explain this. We have power lines underground. You see, when there are windstorms, then you still have electricity, right? But over there in the US, in a lot of states, you have power lines above ground. And maybe an American can explain this to me. I don't really understand this, right?
You can start to hear it now.
In this moment, you can see power flashes, and then a few seconds later, you can actually hear the explosions on video. At least that's what I think that is.
There went the power lines.
Meteorologist Bruce Thomas from KCEN-TV went live right when the National Weather Service issued the tornado warning. He was able to spot the tornado very early on from his sky cam footage.
People are killed. Look at the debris circling around this tornado. Look at it. Man, it's a big one. Huge tornado. It's very close to the station. It's within a mile of us, I believe.
Bruce and the team would stay live on the air covering the supercell for the next 6 hours. A relatively weak F1, the tornado damaged several motorhomes before ascending back into the sky. But the supercell continued to creep towards the southwest and yet another tornado formed, and this one was even stronger. At around 2:40 p.m., an F3 formed near Lake Belton, specifically near Morgan's Point and Woodland. This tornado heavily damaged the marina, shown here. Dozens of boats were completely destroyed and a small patch of forest was also torn out. I tried to find the tree damage on Google Earth. I got on and I tried to do the before and after.
That's also something I don't understand. Why the wooden houses? Why not brick houses, man? You know?
But I couldn't see anything, unfortunately. After crossing the lake, the F3 quickly dissipated and the supercell continued down its path towards Austin. About half an hour later, around 3:20, the initial funnel of the Gerald tornado began to form near Prairiedale. A few things to note. The location of the initial funnel is very close to Interstate 35, and tornado viewing conditions were near perfect. There was no rain, there was no fog or anything in the atmosphere, there was no trees next to the road. You could easily see the funnel. And for this reason, hundreds of people heading down the interstate spotted this tornado and pulled over to film it. One of these people was KVUE photojournalist Scott Guest. Scott Guest and another journalist, Greg Rubin, had heard about the F3 tornado over Belton Lake, and they had hoped to get some footage of it, so they hopped on the interstate, and as they were driving down the interstate, Scott was scanning the skies looking for any signs of a funnel cloud, and boom, he spotted it. The two journalists quickly pulled over on a frontage road located approximately here. At this point, Scott took out his camera and began filming.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see, but I get the heck out of there, man. You know, don't be there when there's a tornado, you know.
Scott Guest's tornado footage is some of the best ever captured. I mean, the quality is so clear, and since he's a pro, obviously he's not, shaking the camera like most people. He's got it nice and steady, and he films a huge portion of the early phases of this tornado. When Scott zooms in, you can clearly see the needle-like tornado just tear up the ground and suck up an occasional hay bale. And when Scott zoomed out, you can see just how tall this elephant trunk-like tornado is. I mean, it's huge. Like, if you were pretty far down the road on the interstate, you could have easily seen this tornado. If you look at this,
now, talking about tornadoes, let's take a look at this here. Rebuilding hope after complete devastation. I believe that's about North Carolina. Let's take a look at this here. That's what
Hey
we
guys, welcome
need.
back. I am Jason. I'm going to be building a small little walking.
We need hope. We need communities coming together, and saying no more government, no more decisions from the United Nations or other global institutions. Now, you are our government, right? And you decide for us, we the people. So let's take a look at this here.
Path, small little bridge across a pretty substantial. We're going to be doing some sort of footpath because the only way she can get to her property is by wading the creek, and she's probably, 60s, and the weather's getting cold, and it's probably not a good idea for her to be wading across a slippery, rocky, fast-flowing stream if we can help it. So we're just going to give her a little path,
I got
a makeshift bridge.
Oh, okay. We just need a good angle to get it high hidden. If it hits the bank,
we're done.
Yeah.
Lots of people have been affected by this stuff. Lots of people have seen some pretty terrible things and experienced a lot of terrible things and lost a lot of things, lost everything, lost loved ones. And it's just going to take a long time for recovery, not just physically, but emotionally as well. So lots of prayers to go to them. If you want to help, man, a lot of people want to help. A lot of people have been reaching out and asking for ways that they can help and volunteer and all those things. Donations, the U.S. Men's Academy, which is the nonprofit that I'm working with, are all good ones to donate to. And we are working, like right now, the U.S. Men's Academy is working on taking the donations that people have sent to us, and we're working on the best placement for those funds. Like, for example, we purchased some Starlinks, and we were able to give those out to people that just have zero communications at the moment because there weren't enough generator power, and there's just nothing, so they can't talk to their families and that kind of stuff. So worked on that. We're working on buying some campers for some people to at least give them some temporary housing until they have a more permanent solution. In some situations, kind of what we're looking for is people that have just been left completely homeless and now they're staying with friends or family, and we're really looking for those people, basically. So if you have any leads on that, you can let us know.
Now look at this, right? Look at this. They're rebuilding a bridge, right? The bridge was washed away, and you have a community of people coming together, making a bridge. You know, not some government intrusion or, you know, government facilitated, sponsored work team. No, these are just communities coming together, building bridges. Beautiful to see, man. That's what we want.
That works. Oh! That's about what I thought was going to happen. So we got it did pretty well. That's about what I expected, but it's right there on the bank. No, I think we might be able to get a little bit more out of it. Here you go, Princess.
Yeah, we're 40 and he's 37. You're 37, right, Tate?
35.
Oh, okay. 35.
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah. Good. Like that. All right, we're yanking. Stand clear.
That was a car. That was a Ford truck.
On top of the big log.
Did you guys see that? We're going to rewind here. We have a truck, right? A truck. It's compacted by debris and mudslides and whatever else, you know. It used to be a truck. Now, I don't know if there's anyone in there, but yeah, you wouldn't have survived this.
On top of the big log. Yeah. Okay. Let's just reset. It's working. It's just slow. I think this is like the fulcrum though, you know what I mean? Okay. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Alright. So we just need to do that again. You can go to do a lot of things. You can sign up to help and register in a lot of places. One of the things that we've created is bccdisasterrelief.com. So in this area right here, you can go to bccdisasterrelief.com and you can sign up as a volunteer, put down your skills, the tools that you have, and you can hopefully get paired up with a work party. And that was good. I went way further than I thought it was going to in first hole. Good. Get it all the way up there as far as we got that last log. I think we're in business. Yeah, so we need to get stuff underneath it.
We got a shovel.
Let's use this. It's about that log right there. But
Push
safe.
That's all I got.
Where's your...
Had a boy or like a cyst in his neck. They didn't know if it was a tumor or
If there are people out there willing to help, then yeah, you can help build bridges, you know.
No, you're right. I'm just thinking mounting the next one.
It's so good.
They had done it with mules instead of trucks, but yeah, whatever. All right. Whatever you want to do, Princess, I'll let you make that call.
I really don't care, babe.
Actually, bring it out farther? Yeah, if you can. Yeah, maybe. Not as good. I can clean that up. Yeah, that really did a whole lot. We'll try to make part of the men's academy, get those guys out.
That's awesome.
What a cool bridge.
That is cool.
What are we gonna name it?
Oh man. We're gonna call it The Way.
The Way?
Got a lot of character.
Well, look at that, right? They saved the family by building a bridge. Beautiful to see, man. It's beautiful to see. So there's a lot of good you can do in this world, you know. We got some information about a big demonstration in Germany. So, yeah, people are coming together, you know. It's beautiful to see. Beautiful. This is what we want, right? We want people to work together by building bridges and makeshift bridges and stuff like that, you know. Beautiful. The world can be a lot better when we work together instead of pointing the finger and saying you're wrong. We don't want war. We want peace. We want to be free. We don't want a global governance deciding for us. We want a parliament that decides for the best of the country. Right? That is what we want. And that is what we will get because we are aware of what's happening in and around our beautiful planet. Right? screw all the UN globalist people. We don't want your globalist agenda. We want peace. That is what we want. And that will be achieved not by Israel, not by killing another Hamas leader or something like that. We will achieve peace by dialogue, right? We need to hold these people accountable for what they're doing. Netanyahu has killed a lot of Lebanese, a lot of Syrians, Iranians, and stuff like that. He's killed a lot of people. He's a war criminal, and he must be put on trial, such as other so-called leaders, right? They need to be put on trial. That's what needs to be done. And they're not going to do it themselves, right? We need to do it. We need to do it. You know, and how can we do this? Well, it's very hard. You know, concessions need to be made and stuff like that. But first, you need to talk about what's really happening. Global institutions running your government, and that is not democratic. That is what's going on, right? And if we look at Al Jazeera, there's a lot going on in the Middle East. We still have the war in Gaza. Your victim targeted twice, right? It's like, stop the wars, man. Stop it. Stop it. We don't need any more wars. We need peace. That's what we need. But, you know, for every crisis, there's also a plan to, you know, keep control. So this is why they make these crises and stuff like that, so they can keep control. You know, it's not about freedom of the people. It's not about wealth and stuff like that. Even though the UN says it is, you know, we want to decrease the poverty gap and such. No, it's not that. They want control over you. Control. Let's see, Israeli massacre in North Gaza's belt. Very, very sad. We don't want war. We want peace. That's what we want. We want peace, right? Peace. So let's take a look at Lionel Nation. It's also very interesting what Lionel has to say about U.S. politics. So let's see. Did you never see Christmas? Yeah. You know, P. Diddy is like, whoa, dude. It's Epstein on steroids, man. Epstein on steroids. You know, and he must be put on trial for the things that he's done, you know. But, yeah, he'll probably get away with it. And people don't care. People do not care. So let's take a look at one of these clips here. These are interviews, I believe. So let's take a look at this one here.
Joe Rogan cannot have Gay Mala on his show. Cannot. Under any circumstances whatsoever, he cannot. And the reason for it is simple. He will, no matter what he does, he will be viewed as a wimp by virtue of his group, his fan base, of which I proudly include myself in membership. Kamala is an idiot, a Boeotian, a dimwit, a dullard, a person who was so devoid, so absent, so vacuous, so inane, that for him not to destroy her, using his considerable wit and knowledge and the like, would forever be viewed by his audience as his being a sellout. And he can't do that. He may try to be the gentleman, he may try to give her a chance, and you can't do this. You have to go in for the kill. You're a UFC fighter. You have spent your time understanding the notion of pugilism and martial arts, and for you to give this woman anything even appearing to be a way out will forever brand you as some kind of an atesticular wimp among your legions of fans who want a bloodthirsty decapitation of this Boeotian. And there's no other way around it. When she is going on this Brett Baer thing, this is going to be a joke because Brett Baer realizes a couple of things. This is a fellow from Fox. Brett Baer is harmless. Brett Baer's up, it's Brett Baer. Somebody came in, I'm sure somebody, either his agent or somebody said, oh, listen.
This was from a couple of days ago, I believe. 3 days ago. Yeah, so the interview was a disaster, according to Mark Dice. And Brett Baer himself said, he needed to finish the interview and stuff, So the Kamala campaign is doing very, very bad. Yeah. And Trump is leading forward like 4 or 5 points, depending on which state. So we'll have another Trump era, right? Now, I did predict in 2020 that Trump would win, and he did win. He did win. The Democrats are desperate, right? They're desperate. They use these stars and stuff, George Clooney supports Kamala Harris. Wait a minute. I thought George Clooney supported what's his face? That old guy that no one knows. Joe Biden. Yeah. Yeah. And suddenly George Clooney says, nope, we're not going to support that guy. Nope. We're going to support her. No, you are supporting your own political party, George. You don't care whether it's Kamala or Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders or name another Democrat. You don't care. You just care about your own clan, your own political party. Now, what we're trying to explain here is that things are above the political party. The United Nations and other global institutions are deciding for the government, right? They have the government in the back pocket. So, and all these people are puppets, even Donald Trump. Donald Trump is also a puppet, so many people are just lost. They don't understand the situation, what's happening in the world. So we're just trying to explain. That is our task. And that's what we do every Sunday, right? And we hope that someone watching would say, hey, that is a good way of seeing politics. That is, yeah. So we need to divorce ourselves from the political party, right? And make an objective, judgment on what's really happening. So let's take a look at Paul Joseph Watson. Let's see what he has to say. Victoria finally reveals her secret. Well, not really interesting. They quietly admitted it. Now, this is pretty interesting.
Flip it out quietly on the down low without...
Wait. Go back. There we go.
When Trump got fact-checked by that ABC moderator for claiming that violent crime levels were rising.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
The assertion that violent crime in America, despite abundant evidence to the contrary, has actually been falling has become a central narrative for leftists and campaign Kamala. Yeah, one problem with that: it's not true. Just weeks before the US election, the FBI has quietly admitted it. They initially claimed violent crime in 2022 had dropped by 2.1%. Now they've revised the figures to show it actually increased by 4.5%. And here's the thing, they only quietly mentioned that the numbers had been updated. And you have to go...
That's what they do. You know, the tyranny is not in front of you, it's behind you, right? It's not like North Korea where you see like soldiers on the streets and stuff like that. No, it's behind you. Everything that's been said from the vaccinations to now, it's all behind us, right? We have to look it up. Wait a minute, what's really happening in Gaza, right? You know, we have to look it up. It's behind us. So we have to look behind us to see what's really happening, right? I'd rather live in a country such as North Korea where you can, face your opponent. You know who the real enemy is, right? That's Kim Jong-un. Yeah, the so-called God. You're not a god. You are mortal, Kim Jong-un. You are as mortal as everyone else. But you have the power. Tin pot dictator shooting his uncle and his half-brother and stuff like that. It's like, what the hell, really? And this is a leader? But we know that North Korea is also listening. Now, North Korea, Pyongyang, you are allowed to be free. And Seoul, you need to come together. That's what you need to do. Don't go into war. We don't need another war. Now, Kim Jong-un may be strengthened by his support, Russia and Iran. He may find the balls to actually attack the South, as been done before, right, in the 50s. So we don't need that. We don't need that. We need peace. That's what we need. Peace.
Go in and download the file, then manually compare it to the previous year's data to confirm the fact that it increased. You'd think that with this being a core election issue, in the name of democracy, they'd want to make it clear to voters. What am I saying? This is the FBI we're talking about. They obviously hope they could just slip it out quietly on the down low without anybody noticing. Well,
the FBI and CIA, they make these frames of consensus, right? You know, oh, that guy's the enemy over there. Yeah, they made a frame around him. Who knows anything about Oswald? No one. Not at the time. You know, the FBI knew. They were tracking him. You know. So, yeah. This is how they do it. They make a frame of consensus, right? Oswald killed Kennedy. Yeah, right. With one magic bullet. Yeah. I don't believe that. You know, and back then, the government was also trying to release itself from the United Nations and global institutions. You know, there's way more why Kennedy was shot. You know, it's not only a coup within the government, but also you had a Democrat willing to sign stuff for the United Nations, right? Involving Vietnam and such. So you need to see the game. You need to see what's happening. And we're trying to explain it. You know, we as a human being, as you know, humans on this planet, we can do so much more. We can do so much better. But we are being ruled by psychopaths who only want war. Right? And I'm not willing to pay my money for war, even though I do so, you know, because if you don't, yeah, we're going to come pick you up and throw you in jail. And that's what happens. You have to pay your taxes. You have to pay your taxes. But wait a minute, where does money come from? Who makes the money, right? The Federal Reserve. Wow, I did not know that. You know, look in history, right? When did the Federal Reserve Act come into being? 1913, during Christmas, where all congressmen were at home, aside from a handful of congressmen, who said, yep, we need a Federal Reserve. Yep. So, you know, it's you have to follow the game. You see, America used to be free because they had their own bank. They can make their own money without lending from an international institution, right? The Federal Reserve is basically an international stockholders institution, you know? So you need to understand the game. They make money out of nothing, you know? They keep you distracted by sports and games and keep you divided because my club is better than your club. Yeah. Screw that. I know the game that they're playing, right? And we all know now, because over here, the truth has been spoken. We want peace. We want sovereign governments that can decide for themselves, right? That's what we want. Not some global institution deciding for our governments. We know the game. So we've been live for long enough. I have other stuff to do. And of course, we're going to close off with a song that we found Sarah Morgan, I believe her name is. And yeah, she's going to sing about taxes. Yep. So we're looking it up. Let's see if we can find it. We have to work together, people. We have to work together. We know who the real enemy is. That's the shadowy organizations such as the Bilderberg Group, World Economic Forum, Trilateral Commission, and other institutions, lobby groups that we know of, right? So we need to do this. You may say, it's nothing. No, this is real. This is reality that I'm trying to show here, right? That I'm trying to convey to the audience. You know, reality. So I hope people aren't lost enough. I hope they still can see the light in these dark times, and that they can know that they're being controlled. You are being controlled. So we found the song, and here we have Sarah. So audio is on. There we go.
Well, they turn our dollars into francs, put them all in foreign banks, buy a couple dozen tanks, then they stick us with the bill. They say they're out of cash, so they subsidize and dash as we carry the world up the hill. Yeah, 'cause the more I make, the more they take, the less I have, the less I have, the more I need, the more I need, the more I work, more I make, more they take until they've got it all. We'll just skip the solo. I'm sick and tired of this USD. I use it and they charge me, while everyone but us has it in reserves for free. I'm gonna buy a little boat, pay one less county fee, set sail for international waters where they can't audit me. Yeah, 'cause the more I make, the more they take, the less I have, the less I have, the more I need, the more I need, the more I work, more I make, more they take until they've got it all. Taxes.
Wait, what's this? We don't need that. So thank you, Sarah, for playing this song. I hope you have a longer track, you know, because it's a beautiful song. Death and taxes, right? Yeah. I want to live. I want to be free. That's what I want. And I want you to have that too, right? Whether you're from North Korea, whether you're from Russia, I don't care what country you're from, you are a human being. Remember that. I thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other next time. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. So we'll see each other next Sunday.